Okay, we're live.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the Black Chamber's Wednesday Wisdom. My name is Leontine Brown. I am a 13-year board member with the Black Chamber of Palm Beach County and the Chamber's board secretary. And this afternoon, I have the pleasure to welcome you today to the Black Chamber's Wednesday Wisdom series. Now, before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items that I want to go over with you all really quickly. First, if you are able, please consider turning on your cameras. It simply helps our speakers to engage with the audience instead of them speaking to a bunch of blank screens. So if you can, please turn on your cameras. Also, until the question and answer portion of today's presentation, please mute your microphones until you're able to be recognized for a question. That's it. Those are all our housekeeping items for today. Easy peasy, right? Before we begin, I have the honor of welcoming my friend. Let me introduce to you the Black Chamber's incoming board president and the chair of our Resource Development Committee, Keely Gideon Taylor, who is going to offer some welcoming remarks from the Black Chamber today.
Thank you, Leontine. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday Wisdom session. I know Leontine will introduce later, but I just want to thank, on behalf of the Chamber, our presenting sponsor, BBIC, and you'll hear from Markeisha in a minute, and then our host sponsor, the Baptist Health Team. Thank you for joining us today. So we will share some upcoming events and things that are going on with the Chamber a little bit later, but we want to get started. So I'm going to turn it back over to Leontine, but welcome, and we'll have bring in others as they join.
Today's Wednesday Wisdom presenting sponsor is one of the Chamber's long-standing supporters and sponsors, the BBIC, which we are happy to have with us today. She's actually laughing at me right now because this tongue-tied thing is this Wednesday Wisdom. I can't get it together. So we'd like to have you all please welcome Ms. Markeisha Johnson from the BBIC. She'd like to welcome you all and give you all some insight on the BBIC and even tell you all about some upcoming events that they have as well. Welcome, Markeisha.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Leontine. Thank you so much for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Markeisha Johnson. I am the VP of Development and Compliance here at Palm Beach County BBIC and Pathway Capital Funding. We are your community-based lender, so we do loans to minority-owned businesses located in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. Our primary focus is small business, women-owned business, veteran-owned businesses, any of those special designations, as well as startups, depending on the industry and background. We are excited to be on the call today. I cannot wait to hear what Baptist Health has to share with us today. They have an amazing topic. And I do want to reiterate that we do have a program coming up as well called Optimize You. It was included in the Black Chamber's newsletter. If you have not heard about it, please feel free to check out our websites and all of our social media, and I will put our contact information in the chat. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and let's have a great session.
And for those of you all who cannot see our chat, because we are also streaming on all of our socials as well as on YouTube, please go to the BBIC website as well as visit the Black Chamber's website, which is blackchamberpbc.com, and sign up for our newsletter. But you can also see all of the upcoming events from not only the Black Chamber, but also from our sponsors, including and our partners, including the BBIC, Baptist Health, any of our partners they're all listed in our events section of our website. So we just wanted to add that as well. So of course, let's go ahead and get started. As many of you all know, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So today we are happy to welcome Baptist Health and our speaker, Manuela Rodriguez, who will be shedding light on this often stigmatized and taboo subject and guide us in breaking the silence surrounding suicide and mental health conditions. However, before I introduce Manuela, let's hear from Deanna Cisse from Baptist Health to tell us a little bit more about Baptist Health and the resources that you all provide to our community before we get started in our presentation today. So Deanna.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, so Baptist Health, we are part of our community health team, and our mission is to provide education programs throughout our communities. So we service all the way from Monroe County, all the way up to Palm Beach County. We offer free education programs on various topics within health and wellness, such as chronic disease management, mental health, nutrition, diabetes, really anything catered to our community and what they're looking for. I will put in the chat our website where you can access all of our programs. We do have virtual programs that are accessible to anyone within our communities, as well as in-person programs catered to each county. So I'll put that in there so you guys can take a look at our website and the different programs we offer. In addition to education programs, there are also exercise classes available, as well as different support groups. So we hope you can use some of those resources, if not share them out into your communities.
Deanna, before you go, we again are streaming both on YouTube as well as on all of our platforms. So can you tell us verbally what the website is as well, because some won't be able to see the chat?
Yeah, of course. So it is baptisthealth.net/community health. And within that page, you'll be able to access the different programs as well as exercise classes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And also, we really want to tell you, thank you so much for being such a wonderful, longstanding partner with the Chamber. We sincerely appreciate all of the resources that you, the BBIC, as well as all of our corporate sponsors bring to the Chamber and our membership. So thank you very, very much. Now, let me go ahead and introduce our guest speaker for today. Manuela Rodriguez is a native Floridian. Manuela received her undergraduate degree in psychology from Florida International University and a master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Nova Southeastern University. Ms. Rodriguez has worked to build a bridge between the world of education and mental health for many years. She has experience in the classroom and has provided family therapy in private practice and in home settings. She has worked with parents and young children of diverse ethnic, race, and socioeconomic backgrounds, including children with special needs. She has provided bilingual parenting workshops and support groups for families, children, and teens. Manuela, thank you so much for being here today, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here, surrounded by powerful women and also a strong message to our community today, as it is Suicide Prevention Month. I am going to start sharing my screen, and I do have some slides that will support the information that was shared on community health as well. So I'll make sure to share those slides before we get started. Just making sure that you see my Baptist Health screen. Awesome. So today's program is Breaking the Silence, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. We have a screen here with a QR code for our screening. It is a mental health screening tool. This is not to diagnose, but it helps with those, initial questions that we may have, and it provides automatically, it populates resources for you or for a loved one. So feel free to check that out. We have the mental health screening tool and our community health classes. So we have our Mind Body Social partner, as well as our Instagram Baptist Health SF, and you can stay in contact with us on programmings that are available, and a lot of our community health programs are advertised on that platform. This month, we also have a community health wellness challenge that's going on, and we incorporate a lot of our team members, which is mental health, nutrition, exercise, and really talking about our whole well-being, right? All those parts together. So we offer that challenge and all of our programs free to the community. So I just wanted to piggyback off some of the things that were shared earlier, and I hope that you can share those resources for yourself or someone that you know and love. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Some tips for a great experience is this is not a therapy session. Although I mentioned I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, we're going to be talking more about connection and mindset over method. This is an educational presentation that we will be discussing some statistics, some numbers that may be triggering for you or for anyone that's listening. So if you or someone you know is struggling with your mental health, please text or call 988. And if at any time any information that is shared is triggering, please give yourself some time as well. Be respectful of the information that we're going to be sharing, as well as sharing your different opinions and perspectives as well in the chat if that's available, or reach out to us at programs@baptisthealth.net after if you need further resources or help. And then stay curious. If you have any questions, please reach out during the presentation or after and share with us any questions. So we will start with a mindfulness moment. Let's take a moment to pause before we jump into this conversation, as it is a heavy one. Let's take a moment for anyone that has been touched by suicide. We honor their life and their struggle. And we also give you a chance to reflect on how you may be feeling at this moment. If you're struggling with these thoughts or this conversation, please pause, and you have the resource to text or call 988 at any moment. So a lot of times when we think about suicide and suicidal thoughts, right, in our community, we see that we may be struggling with the difference between empathy and sympathy. And I like to share this next video because it really shares that when someone reaches out to us for help or about their mental health struggles, it's really just about empathy. Giving them the space and the time to talk about what's going on, and not so much trying to fix it or solve it for them. And so this video is a great short clip, 3 minutes, that it gives us an example of the difference between empathy and sympathy. And hopefully technology is on my side and we can hear it.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." And then We look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So in that video, we are reminded, right, of the importance of connection. And as we are all struggling with different areas in our well-being, whether it's our financial well-being, our social well-being, our spiritual well-being, right? We share with someone what's going on. And what we hope to hear is that connection, that empathy, right? Not that silver lining that we often say, or those comments of trying to fix it in that moment, but really just connecting, listening. So as we hear in this next slide, the numbers, right? The data, not all the numbers are going to be recorded, right? We're not going to have all the statistics because, again, there is a stigma surrounding suicide and suicidal ideation and attempts as well. So suicide in numbers, according to the World Health Organization, 700,000 people die due to suicide every year. That's 77% of global suicides in low and middle income countries in 2019. And these numbers, again, are going to be updated soon, but these are from 2019. And 48,000 in the US. That's 12.3 million. So these numbers, as we're looking at this, adults are seriously considering suicide, and 1.8 million people have attempted suicide. So this is something that we need to talk about, that we have to embrace these conversations of what's really going on. How are we really feeling? And oftentimes this conversation may be brought up to us and we dismiss it. No, it's fine. You'll be fine. You'll get over this, right? But we need to connect with each other and say, what you have just told me, thank you for sharing that. Let's connect some more. Can I connect you to some resources? What can I do for you? How can I be of help, right? Because suicide is 100% preventable if we come together as a community and we connect more as human beings. Suicide does not discriminate. Mental health does not discriminate. Where you are, who you are, what are your, what's your income, what's your job. This is 100% preventable if we connect together as a society, as humans, and talk about what's really going on and connecting to resources. So we will be sharing resources at the end, but one of the strongest messages that I can share today is the story of Kevin Hines. This is a 7-minute video So I'm not sure that we're going to be able to watch, the whole thing, because I want to make sure that I'm respectful to time. But it is a very strong video on Kevin Hines, that he jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. So here we see the live story from Kevin Hines, and it speaks for itself. So I'm going to play a little bit of it just so that you can really hear his message. And then I will make sure to share the link, and you can always Google on YouTube as well to watch the remaining part.
The day was September 25th of the year 2000. I was 19, and I came to a place in such immeasurable mental instability that I believed I had to die by my hands. I felt like I was a burden to everyone around me, and I felt that they all hated me and wanted me to die. I wish I asked them if that was the case. They would have all told me otherwise. The night of the 24th, the night before my attempt, I was sitting at my desk writing a note to my mom and dad, and I basically told them in the note how much I loved them. What I couldn't recognize was that I had value. I would find purpose. I would have hope again, but I couldn't see it back then. And at 6 a.m, I entered my dad's room, and he looked at me and he goes, "Kevin, what's wrong?" And I desperately wanted to tell him the truth. I never wanted to take my life that day. I believed I had to. And those are two categorically different things. And eventually I convinced my dad that morning that I was fine, knowing full well that I was going to the Golden Gate and I was going to die. He turned to me and he said one of his favorite things, "Kevin, I love you, be careful." And that moment is etched in my brain. When I speak on it, I can see my dad driving away and thinking to myself, that's the last time I'll ever see anybody I love, and the last time anybody I love will ever see me in being content to die by my hands. Irrational and logical thought come to mind when you think of suicidal ideation, not rational and logical thought. And so I didn't know that back then. And I left English class early, and I got on a muni train, and I began to yell aloud after I'm crying my eyes out on a crowded bus filled with people, and I yelled, "Leave me alone." And now, if no one else was, 100 people are looking down the barrel of the bus at me but saying nothing. And that, I think, is what's wrong with some of our society. Our innate human ability to see somebody, anybody, in the greatest lethal emotional pain they've ever experienced, but feel nothing for them but fear of them and apathy toward them. We're supposed to be here to give back to other people. But the bus got to the Golden Gate Bridge and everybody got off, and I was the last person on the bus, and I walked onto the span on the walkway of the Golden Gate, and I paced back and forth for 40 minutes, and that's when a woman from my left approached me, and she had blonde curly hair and big sunglasses, and she said, "Excuse me, will you take my picture?" And I remember laughing inside, like, it's kind of bad timing. But I took her picture, and she took her camera, and she walked away. And at that moment, I thought, absolutely nobody cares. But it was the furthest thing from the truth. Everybody cared. I fell 220 feet, 25 stories at 75 miles an hour in 4 seconds. I prayed on the way, "What have I just done? I don't want to die. God, please save me." I hit the water. I go down 70 feet. I swim 70 feet to the surface without the use of my legs, as fast as I've ever swum in my life, in one breath, praying the entire way, "God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake." I broke the surface. "God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake." Bobbed up and down in the water. "God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake. I can't die here. If I die here, no one will ever know I didn't want to. No one will ever know I knew I made a mistake." And that's when a creature began to circle beneath me. And no longer am I wading in the water to stay afloat. I'm lying atop it on my back, being kept buoyant by this creature, thinking to myself, this is one hell of a nice shark. It turns out I was on a show a year later called Primetime Live with John Quinones. A guy called Morgan McWard writes into the show, and he goes, Kevin, I'm so very glad you're alive. I was standing less than 2 feet away from you when you jumped. Until this day, no one would tell me whether you lived or died. It's haunted me until right now. By the way, there was no shark, like you mentioned on the show, but there was a sea lion. And the people above looking down believed it to be keeping your body afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind you. Frankly, had she not had me take her pictures for those 5 minutes, the creature that came to my aid in the water, that kept me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me, would not have been in the location it was to save my life. That's my miracle. But that was just the first part of it. Of the 39 Golden Gate Bridge jump survivors, I was number 26 of 39 to survive that fall. 5 of us get the privilege to stand, walk, and run. It would be a really rough road for a really long time. I finally found the ability in my third psych ward stay to be self-aware with my disease. Now I know that no matter what I'm faced with, I will defeat it. And suicide will never be the solution to my problem. It is the problem. I have chronic thoughts of suicide. They plague me. They'll never, ever take me. There's no way I'm going to take my life. I'm always going to ask for help.
So I'm going to cut it there, but his message of us, I'm always going to ask for help. And that's what we can do here today. That's how we can connect with someone, reach out to someone, and share with someone what's going on, right? So this example that we have with Kevin Hines is a message on the struggles of mental health. Him understanding what is going on in his body was not something that, he wanted to die by his own hands, right? He felt that he needed to die by his own hands, right? So the terminology, understanding what's going on in someone's mind, what's going on with their emotions it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And if at least someone in that bus, he said it was a crowded bus and not one person reached out to say, hey, what's going on? And there's another video that he shares that actually while he was on that bus, people were laughing. Hey, what's wrong with that kid? 19 years old. And that's the empathy that we're talking about. We look at someone else's pain and we say, yeah, what's wrong with that person, right? What could they be complaining about? We don't know what someone else can be complaining about or what struggles they have. So if we can empathize with someone else, connect, be that connection to someone, right? We can make the world a better place, right? And again, it takes time because a lot of the stigma behind mental health issues or suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideations, it takes a toll on, it could be the family or the caretaker or the loved ones that are alongside an individual that's struggling, right? But we need to eliminate that stigma and talk about it just as if, right, you're somewhere, right, in the community and somebody starts, having trouble breathing. And, everyone comes together and they start performing CPR. They start calling 911, right? Because we see a physical concern, right? We all know what to do. If at least we know that we need to keep the person afloat until 911 arrives. That's what we can do with someone as well. And we're going to share about QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer, right? And that QPR is just like CPR, right? Can we ask a question to someone about what's going on, right? And also words are the most powerful force available to humanity. So let's use our words also to destigmatize suicide, right? A lot of times we hear the terminology committing suicide, right? As if it were a crime. And there are some, religious conversations about that as well, that it's a sin or committing a crime. But if we can talk about it as dying by suicide, bringing the vocabulary into our community, that it might not be their choice to die by suicide. They are struggling and struggling hard with mental health disorder and mental health concerns, right? So again, using our words to create conversations about mental health, conversations about suicide, that can be difficult, right? This is not something that, you're going to just automatically start asking people about, but it's this educational platform that we have, sharing with someone the resources, reading about mental health disorders and what that really means for someone that could be living with suicidal ideations or suicidal concerns, right? So some of the risk factors, there's not just one path to suicide. There's biological factors. It could be genetic, gender. Oftentimes women will attempt more. So statistically, it's proven that women will attempt more, but they will use less lethal methods, right? Either overdosing or hanging themselves. So it's not going to lead to death. Also age, middle-aged white males are in the highest rate of completing suicidal attempts, due to the access to lethal methods, guns, and being around guns. So gun safety, and this is not a conversation about gun laws, but it's about keeping the guns locked, right? And gun safety. The largest growing age group is the elderly, 85 and over. Post-pandemic, that's the information that we are getting, right? There's also environmental risk factors, seasons, geography, where you live, abuse, neglect in the household dysfunction, a loss of a parent to suicide, trauma, culture, values or religion, drugs and alcohol, and any illness, any physical illness where they're feeling pain. They want to get rid of that pain, and they feel this is the only way to eliminate that pain from their lives. And then there's also personal and psychological, right? Anyone struggling with mental health disorders, anything going on personally in their life that they feel this is going to impact their lives and those around them, right? So it's talking about these things. And a lot of times in therapy, we talk about these areas, but it can be simply having a conversation with a peer, with a loved one, with a family member about these things. So I strongly suggest therapy, right? But again, if it could be a friend, a family member, a neighbor that reaches out to you and asks about any of these areas, we can change the conversation for someone. We can make the difference for someone. And it can start small by simply learning and educating ourselves more about this and about resources that are in our community. Right? Protective factors. What are some ways that we can protect because some of those risk factors are in there, right? There's therapy, medication compliance. So if they're suffering with an illness and they have a combination of medicine, right? How are they complying with that medication? Who's taking care of the medication? A sense of hope. Never losing that sense of hope. And we hear that message loud and clear from Kevin, right? It could be pets, right? Connecting with pets, having that emotional support, sobriety, support from family and friends, job security, right? Financial stresses are a thing. It's a real thing in our community. And I'm sure, right, we are all seeing it in our communities, in our families, our home environment. What that looks like makes a huge difference. Spirituality, whatever that looks like for you, and also talking about religious prohibition, which is if it is considered to be a sin or not, having that conversation, right, with religious leaders and family members. Positive self-esteem, creating that within our youth, and creating that within ourselves, right? Keeping that as a priority in our lives. responsibility to children. So a lot of times that becomes a protective factor, because we know that we don't want to leave our children without, care. Good health, whether it's physical health, mental health, right? Keeping all of those are important, and in balance. All of those areas are important in your life. Having a safety plan within your home. Fear, believe it or not, is often a protective factor, right? Because actually pulling through and going through with suicide takes a lot on the individual, right? And availability to treatment. So knowing what the resources are, knowing what the red flags are, which is on the next slide. And I know I'm cutting over some of the Q&A time, but we'll run through these red flags. If you hear or see someone making a threatening statement, right? I'm going to kill myself. The world is better without me. Let's take these comments and really understand them. What does that mean? Tell me a little bit more, right? Changes in mood, and it's any drastic change in mood. It could be now super outgoing or super introverted and not leaving the house. So any drastic changes in mood, withdrawing, isolating is another red flag. Changes in sleeping habits, not being able to sleep at night, poor sleeping patterns, right? Sleep is very important for our body to recharge, just like we charge our phones, right? We need to charge our bodies through sleep. So really being mindful of what sleeping patterns may look like. Giving away possessions, that's one of the more common ones that you may have heard of. Starting to give away things that they love, things that they're passionate about, they stop doing, acting recklessly, and a lot of times the use of alcohol and drugs, right? And so these are some red flags, right? A lot of times you may not see any of these red flags. So I also want to be, mindful and respectful about that you may not always see the red flags, right? And they're very good at masking some of these red flags. So it's really important to ask and truly engage in these difficult conversations about what's really going on, right? Tell me what's really going on, and being present for the individuals in our life, a coworker, a friend, a family member, whoever it may be. And the example that I shared was the mental health versus that physical health, right? A lot of times when we perform CPR, right, we see someone sweating, or they become pale, or they're having shortness of breath, and we automatically start performing CPR. We'll call 911. We'll make sure to get them the help that they need. But in mental health, right, it could be impaired thought processes, right? They can start having difficulty communicating, right? So it's being able to give them the words that they need to identify their emotions, right? They also have shortness of breath and sweaty palms. And the gift that's there is that they start giving away their possessions, right? So again, those are also warning signs that we have to look at to start implementing what a lot of times NAMI, which is a wonderful resource, NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is they offer this question, persuade, and refer. So it's a 60 to 90 minute course that it asks you, what are some of these warning signs, the risk factors, and about suicide that we briefly talked about in the previous slides. How do we intervene? How do we ask these tough questions when someone's at risk for suicide, right? Because we may not be comfortable. We may not know how to go about having these tough conversations and how to refer someone that's at risk of suicide to get those resources. So this is through NAMI Miami-Dade, but NAMI is across all counties. So Palm Beach, there is a NAMI as well, and it's about Becoming a Gatekeeper. So this is a course that anybody can take to get more information on QPR. And the resources that we share with Baptist Health is we have the Recovery Village, which is on substance abuse, and also any mental health concerns. You can see a licensed professional at the Recovery Village. There is one in South Miami and also in Palm Beach. Our Pine app, you can schedule appointments on the Pine app, and you can also see a mental health counselor on the Pine app. And any urgent care needs, we have support groups that are free on our community health website. So if there's a support group that you need and you're interested, you can look at that website, but also the National Alliance on Mental Illness, so NAMI, they offer free support groups for caretakers that are living with someone with a mental health disorder or anybody diagnosed with a mental health disorder, which are like slightly different groups, right? To really make sure that we are getting the support that we need, that we talk about what's going on, and we, feel that we are not alone, right? Because we are not alone in this world, right? The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, if you are not aware, it is now 988, as I've placed it at the bottom of the presentation as well. It's not a 1-800 number. It's a quick dial or text to 988, and you're speaking with support immediately for if you or someone that you know is in a crisis to ask for support. And 211, that is another resource to ask about anything and everything. So you can call 211 and get some extra resources as well. And specifically for Suicide Prevention Month, we have the American Foundation on Suicide Prevention, which is afsp.org. And then you have the National Institute of Mental Health, as I mentioned, NAMI. They have a warm line, and they also have an email helpline at NAMI.org. So if you are more comfortable emailing, calling, texting, find the way to get your help, right? There's also the teen line. So for our teens specifically, it's you can text teen to 839-863. So that is a teen line for our teens. And then a mental health warm line, a 1-800-945-1355. And then the NAMI QPR training that I talked about is nami.org/QPR. And again, sharing as many resources as we can. Our community health QR code for those community health classes that we shared earlier. And again, thank you for giving us this space, creating this space for our community and talking about this often very difficult topic. And I hope that you can share and you've learned something that you can take with you, especially during this month, but we can talk about it year round.
Manuela, thank you so much for the presentation and all of those resources. This is one of those things that you don't know that you need it until you need it. And so it's very much appreciated, the proactive nature of a presentation like this. And so again, thank you so very much. I did look at social media, both our YouTube pages as well as our other social media platforms, and I didn't see any questions, but I did want to ask a question, and Keely also has a question, so I will yield to Keely, and then I actually have a question as well.
Absolutely.
Leontine, you go first.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Fred. So, of course, this is the Black Chamber, and we are an organization that really does cater to small business owners, entrepreneurs, and of course, we have some large partners as well. But for the most part, a lot of our members are small to mid-sized organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses. And sometimes they don't have the same type of resources in terms of training and staff members. They may not even be able to even provide mental health days off. And so what resources do you recommend specifically for small business owners who have a small number of employees that they can utilize?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the ones that we talked about, those are free and open to the community. All the resources that we discussed, that would be a great way that if these resources are posted or shared in either their lounge or shared somewhere where the employees have access to, or if there is a monthly meeting or a gathering where the employees are, right? It's about sharing these resources, whether it's email, having a picture of it and really helping them say, hey, is there anything that you need, right? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to learn about? What are some of the stresses that you're having, right? Being that they are small and it's a small business, right? We may not want to say something, right? Eliminating that stigma, because maybe if so-and-so finds out, or my boss finds out, or if I say something, is my job in jeopardy? These are real conversations. This is something that, our employees they're worried about, right? Especially with the financial world that we're living in, right? So it's creating that safe space for employees to talk, whether it's a maybe just like an engagement meeting, right? Where it's not so much work, but maybe just connecting with each other, maybe offering a suggestion box where, it's anonymous, and really seeing what is the need of the employees. What are they talking about? What are they concerned about? And this could be for any leader, right? To really understand what's going on a human level with my staff of 1, 2, 3, or 100, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all human. We are all human. So it could be from the leader to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, right? It's checking in with each other and making those connections.
I like that. I like doing it all together instead of having one person have to stand out in a very small environment. Let's all have a mental health day. Let's all
if that's available to them, right? If they're able to make that, or make one meeting less structured and just more, hey, what's going on? How are the kids? How is the family? Getting to understand each other at a personal level.
Very good. Keely?
Thank you, Manuela. So, kind of piggybacking off of Leontine's question. So, most of our members, are Black-owned and minority-owned businesses. So, you talked about some stats regarding suicide. Do you have stats on how those in the minority community approach suicide, or if their rates are higher or lower?
I don't have the exact rates on me. I can pull them up, but I know that there is a big stigma on having conversations and talking about mental health in general, right? We don't talk about mental health, right? So a lot of the stats or the numbers, we don't have the exact numbers, because a lot of times it doesn't get accounted for, because a lot of times it may be masked with an accident, or it may be they may call it something else, right? Instead of talking about it. And a lot of times, even at funeral services, it may just be said, they were difficulty with mental health, right? And so we're making a big step in talking about mental health. And I think post-pandemic, we've seen a change in talking about mental health, but suicide and dying by suicide and talking about what's really happening in our communities is still a challenge that we have. And so I think it's important. I can try pulling up the number now, and I forgive me for not having that on me.
No, that's okay.
But I can definitely share it after, and we can email it so that it can be shared what the numbers are. Again, we read those numbers, and we still have so much to do as a community and as a society. To simply just connect with each other. And a lot of times we don't want to have these awkward conversations. And maybe even our home or the culture is telling us, we're not going to talk about it. Let's not talk about it. It's not happening. It's not happening here. It's not going to happen to us. But what are other ways that we can connect then on a human level and get the support we need, right? So I'll make sure to follow up with you on that stat so that you can have it and share it with the chamber. But connection as humans is really the emphasis of this presentation. And as we can see with Kevin Hines as well, his story, and there's so many more that we could learn from.
Okay, thank you. So I know we're just
You're on mute.
Keely, Markeisha also had one question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
If we could let her be our last question.
Sure.
All right, thank you so much. Manuela, that was an amazing presentation. I hope that a lot of people go back and replay the video. You gave some really incredible nuggets, in my opinion. I did have two questions. First one is that 988 number. Is that a national number or is it just locally?
No,
it's
988 is national, and you can text or call 988, right? So it's different platforms to make it for those that may be more comfortable texting or calling.
Okay. And then the second question, you provided us with some resources and it gave us snapshots of websites and different options that we can choose. Can that be given in a handout to the chamber?
Absolutely.
So that we may post it in our offices. I think it's a very, very important topic, and a lot of people don't talk about it, and it doesn't happen. You keep it at home. But I think sometimes when you share, and people can take an image real quick, it makes a difference, and they can do it on their own private time.
Absolutely.
If you could,
We'll
I'd
make sure.
appreciate it.
Yes. We'll make sure the more we can share, the more we can get these resources out there. Maybe someone sees the website and they prefer the website or the support group on NAMI. Again, it's finding what works for you, because we can say, okay, everybody start journaling tomorrow. It's going to help you. But it might not be a fit for, everyone. Someone might find value in that, right? But what is a fit for you and your family, and what's going on? What are the struggles you're having? What are the challenges, the difficulties, and what's working? How can we do more of what's working? Having that positive talk about what's working, because we can spiral very quickly into the things that are not working, right? So just wanted to share that, but thank you.
Thank you. So I am going to wrap it up. On behalf of the Black Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County, I want to thank Manuela and Deanna, the Baptist Health team, for joining us this afternoon. Also want to thank Markeisha with the BBIC for sponsoring the series of Wednesday Wisdom. So just want to share some upcoming events. We do have our next Wednesday Wisdom session is October 11th. And we'll be speaking about protecting your business, cybersecurity. October is Cybersecurity Month, so that is shaping up to be a very good presentation. And then our before business hours breakfast next month is State of the County. So we'll be joined by a county administrator, Virginia Baker, who will share all that's going on in our wonderful county. And so you can check out our new website and see all the other upcoming events. We list the chamber hosted events and our community events. Those are events that are being hosted by our members. I want to thank Leontine for moderating today's session. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County, have a great afternoon.